Good afternoon. I think we can call this meeting to order. Public Transportation Advisory Committee, May 4th meeting. I'm Tom Riley, the chair, and we can order introductions.
Rick Metro.
I'm Drew Funham. I'm the new PM for McHenry County Division of Transportation.
Welcome.
Scott Hennings, I'm the Assistant Director of Transportation with the McHenry County team.
I'm Jenkins. I'm the Director of Sustainability for McHenry County College.
I'm Scott Redmond, and I'm the Transportation Coordinator for Senior Care Balance Work.
I'm Bianca Diaz with the RTA.
I'm Shaylin Daigle with McHenry County Council of Governments.
I'm Kelly Schmecka. I'm the Director of the Specialty Courts.
I'm Gary Scott. I'm the Project Manager in Paratransit at PACE.
Ed Gallagher, Community Relations with PACE Workplace.
I'm Josh Lane. I'm the Management Analyst with the City of Crystal Lake.
I'm Doug Martin. I'm Director of Economic Development with the City of McHenry.
Jasmine Vega, Transportation Planner with McHenry County DOT.
Thank you. And then we have the May 4th, oh wait, is this the minutes? The minutes are in the packet, I'm assuming. And, from February 2nd, we need a approval of that. I'll move approve. And a second.
I'll second.
And then we still all approve.
Yeah, you can do that.
All right. Anyone object? Okay, we're good.
Mary, you can sit up here if you want. Sit your next
I'm
to me.
just
It's all right. We're informal like that. Come on.
okay.
Before public comment, Mary, you want to introduce yourself?
No.
My name's Mary Donner. I used to be part of the county board and part of PTAC, and then I worked for PACE. Ed has taken over my place at PACE for McHenry County, and I will tell you, he's doing a wonderful job. He's gotten things done that in 9 years, or 13 years, I couldn't get done. So, one big one, and we'll start from there. So I'm here kind of just to see. I'm also chairman of the, I guess, regional plan for 2050. And we're meeting all this year to come up with a better comprehensive plan than we've had. The last one was 2030, and then an update a little bit later that was still 2030, and now we're trying to make it really be something special. And we've turned a corner, and I think we're doing very well. So I'm transportation anyway, I may as well be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? There's no public comment, so we'll move on to old business, the MC Ride program update. And I hope this is Jasmine.
Yes, that's me. Committee members, in your packets you have our ridership from January 2023 to April 2023. A couple of things to know. MCC, we've fulfilled 1,592 rides from January to April. 5310 rides, we have 25,528, and then general rides, 9,849. Typically when we give these updates, it's usually a month or two, but we're looking at the past 4 months. As far as our expanded hours update, again, so January 1st, 2023, we expanded our hours from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. So we wanted to provide an update on those ridership numbers. In the AM from January to April of 2023, there has been 1,102 rides. For the PM rides, that's 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. We are looking at 1,008 rides. Is there any questions about those figures? Going forward in our next.
Can I jump in real quick? So just so the group kind of gets what this means. During the month of January, the morning, extending the hours by just 1 hour in the morning, resulted in roughly just under 300 trips a month, additional trips per month. Which is 75 trips a week, which is 10 to 12 trips a day that we added just in that 1 hour. So that's 10 or 12 people that I'm guessing are going to work or medical, probably dialysis appointments, because I know those can be early in the morning. So that's not nothing.
That's good.
Yeah, and this group was really the group that pushed that forward. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood the ramifications of that decision, and there is a cost associated with it, but I think it's doing a lot of good too. So that's all.
At the next PTAC meeting, I'll keep you all updated for the rest of the year, because again, this was just kind of our pilot project, so this is just, we have funds only for 2023 until we reach that 200,000 cap. But until then, I'll keep providing updates to you all.
And based on that cap, do you think it'll last all 2023 or?
I think it should throughout 2023. I don't know exactly when.
I think when we ran the numbers at the end of last year, the $200,000 was going to be more than enough to pay for the expanded hours.
Okay.
And we probably would have a little bit left over. And even if it didn't pay for the entire expansion of hours, it's not like we're going to tell Gary that we want to stop the expanded hours if we run out of money. It's going to carry through the entire year. It's just that whether or not that $200,000 will cover it all, I think was the question. But I think it will, based on what the numbers we're seeing right now.
Then the service partner updates, RTA.
So I have a couple of updates from the RTA. For Section 5310, the call for projects opened on March 20th and applications were due April 21st. So the next step in this process is that there will be application presentations to the project selection team on either May 25th or June 1st. If you're interested in more information about Section 5310, you can visit rtachicago.org/region/section-5310. For the Transit is the Answer Coalition, the RTA's Transit is the Answer Coalition is going to advocate for sustainable transit funding and help shape the future of the system. The group of riders, advocates, agency staff, and community leaders like you will hold quarterly hour-long virtual meetings to develop and pursue strategies for strengthening the transit system and making it more useful for all residents. This initiative is a continuation of the robust engagement that informed the development of Transit is the Answer. The first virtual coalition meeting is going to be Tuesday, May 9th from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m., followed by an optional 30-minute networking and Q&A session. All are welcome to join for an update on the RTA's planned 2023 activities and a discussion about a potential program for expanded free or reduced transit fares for people experiencing low incomes. Registration for the meeting is required, so if you're interested in that, the registration link can be found on our website, rtachicago.org, or if you want the direct link, just let me know. I can send it to you through email. So the Transit is the Answer first quarterly report will be presented to the board on May 18th. Transportation Tuesday webinar series. I'm not sure if any of you attended last year or have ever heard of our transportation webinar series, but that's going to be beginning. It's going to be occurring in June. So every week on Tuesday there will be a new topic that you can listen into. Everything is virtual, so if you want more information on that, you can check out our website. More information is to come. And the last update I have is that during the pandemic, the RTA was doing courtesy renewals for people that have ride-free and reduced fare passes. That was just because of what was going on with the pandemic. People didn't have to come in. It was just something that was automatically done for people. That has come to an end, so if anybody asks you or if you hear about anything like that, that's been discontinued and people now have to fill out like a typical application and go in person should they need that. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, Pace Bus update, Gary and Ed.
Yes.
Open.
I'll go real fast. So, and mine's pretty quick. So,
Our on-time percentage with paratransit has been meeting or above PACE standards, above 95%. It's really been kind of like between like 97 and 99% pretty much all the time. We are still sanitizing vehicles. We're still making sure vehicles are clean and following our COVID protocols. Our staffing levels are improving, and we're nearly fully staffed with drivers. However, we're still looking for additional drivers. It's always good to have more drivers than not enough, and we are still recruiting drivers for our user program. Albeit we have not expanded to McHenry County yet. And just for some background, user is a TNC that we began a contract with in December 2022 to help with overflow ridership, and still are 5 months in, and hoping to launch in some of the other service areas that we're not providing in sooner rather than later. And we'll definitely need drivers in this area for user to be used at its most potential. So if you know anyone that wants to drive for like a TNC, kind of like Uber or Lyft, I'm glad to help you get a link, and I send that to Scott and Jasmine every week. So that's really all I've got. I know Ed has a lot, so.
Gary, any update on when that's going to be expanded out to McHenry County?
I don't have that information right now.
Okay.
We're still working on some tech upgrades and things.
Awesome. Well, for PACE, our fixed route service, I have a ridership update, then I have an update on the 550. So first, for ridership, I have January, February, and March numbers. In January, PACE carried just about 1 million riders on our fixed route service, which put it up 20.6%. That's not a mistake. 20.6% higher than this time last year. So on a typical weekday, there was an estimated about 42,000 riders in January. System-wide, in January, our fixed route service, Dial-A-Ride, Vanpool, and Paratransit all combined gave us to 1.4 million riders in the month of January of 2023. That's about 22.4% higher compared to the same time last year. So January, we saw unseasonably warm weather and great ridership. February, PACE carried an estimated 1 million riders on our fixed route service. It was an average 7.3% increase from the same time the previous year. System-wide, which included everything, brought us to 1.4 million riders in the month of February. That's roughly 11% higher than the same time the previous year. Compared to 2022, the fixed route ridership was up about 12.8%. In March, we carried 1.6 million riders, which was up about 4% to 2022. In March as well, or since the beginning of the year, we've carried 6,000 TNC trips. Gary mentioned our user program, so that 6,000 category includes that ridership. For 550, so bring it back to McHenry. In both the months of January and February, our Route 550 saw an increase in ridership that exceeded PACE's system-wide ridership. Our ridership in January was 2,261 individuals compared to 1,879 for an increase of 20%. In February, we had 2,605 riders on the 550. That is higher than the 22 numbers, which were 2,116, an increase of 23%. In the entirety of the first quarter, for 2023, so January through March, our 550 route saw an increase in ridership of 12% versus 2022. Since the implementation of our new routing, which was in March, that new routing takes the 550 off of Main Street onto Virginia Road, and then it turns onto Northwest Highway. That was in conjunction with one PTAC as well as the city and the county. So in that move, we have seen the ridership in March stay about the same currently. but I'm glad to report that there is activity within that new route. So we've looked at kind of the stop-related data within that area, and we are seeing an increase of activity at those stops that were just put in that area. We will continue to monitor it, and we do need some more time to really get an analysis for stop-related data, but I'm optimistic that as we see the numbers grow, we will see the ridership overall in 550 grow. And I just wanted to again thank the city of McHenry, or of Crystal Lake, the county of McHenry, for helping us work on this, on the 550 project, and look to include additional residential and business locations within our fixed route service. So thank you guys. And I'll continue to give updates on that as I have data available. Moving on to electrification, PACE was awarded CMAP's 2023 Regional Resilience Award for our Project Zero, which is our zero emissions transition plan. And we are committed to and looking to achieve zero emissions by 2040. We are ahead of schedule on a lot of that. I provided some information in my packet regarding the criteria to that. And then at our board meeting in April, the same time we were awarded the award, we also approved ordinances to expand electric charging at a lot of our park and ride facilities and some of our PACE individual facilities. While there isn't a facility in McHenry that is receiving the electric charging, vehicle chargers at our park and rides, the Randall Road and 90 park and ride, which is just off of the 550, which gives you access also to our I-90 corridor service, is getting battery charge or electric charging receptacles. So that'll be the closest one to be accessed for anyone here in McHenry County. Our congressional funding grants, I would love to thank our congressional delegation here in the state of Illinois for their continued support of PACE and our system. Specifically here in McHenry, Congressman Bill Foster's office just gave us the update that they have indicated their support for our $1 million community grant request submitted for electric paratransit buses here in McHenry County. Now, these have a long way and a long budget process to go before there's any opportunity to get those funds, but this really shows, a commitment from our Illinois legislators, one for public transit, and then two for investing in innovation and increased efficiencies when it comes to public transit. So, thanks to them. Vanpool, I know I've introduced it before, but the part-time rider fare discount has been officially recognized and cemented into our program. So as hybrid work stays, in our environment, in our work environment, PACE's Vanpool program is going to continue to stay innovative and allow for a reduced rider fare for that program. So you have half the price to join a Vanpool if you're only going to utilize the vehicle for 3 days or less a week. And then in my packet, I've also presented the information on the reduced fare products. So I gave a small presentation on it at the last board meeting, but now it's all official. So we have the breakdown of the individual PACE CTA 1-day passes, the 3-day pass, and the 7-day pass, as well as the reduction in transfer fees between PACE fixed route services. So we are continuing to try to ensure our services are as low cost and connected as possible. So now it's easier for someone to utilize the service. And I'll take any questions if anyone has any.
Roughly the ridership numbers compared to COVID, pre-COVID?
I don't have the ones compared to 2019. I've made that request, and the county has also requested the data, so I've submitted that to our data analysis. I'm optimistic to have it sometime in the future. Once I have that, I can share it.
Are you hearing any negative comments about the 550 change? Anybody complaining about it?
Nothing that's brought into my attention. We did look before the change in our review and our due diligence. We did, recognize the ridership and activity on the discontinued portion of the route, and there were like 1 or 2 riders that may have been affected. So we made sure to put up signs in advance, well in advance of the change. So, and luckily too, that stop only moved a couple hundred feet. So, but no, not to this point.
Those ridership figures you cite in January and February, is that the ridership for the 550 in McHenry County?
That's the entirety of the route.
For the entirety of the route. And I think that's important we really understand. 90% of the 550 is in Kane County. We are the very terminus, the 10 to 15% of the route is in McHenry County. For us, it's it's a big portion of the route. But overall, that 550 goes from Crystal Lake way down to Elgin, downtown Elgin, right? So it's a very long route. So I'd be interested to see sort of what percentage is in Kane versus what percentage is in McHenry. I'm sure your data team has that somewhere, but I probably take a while to break that out a little bit.
Yeah, I can submit that request. I will say I was just given the McHenry, the Crystal Lake Metro Station boardings.
Okay.
So I can crunch that and probably get that to you by the end of the week.
That would be helpful.
From off the top of my head, I thought we still had an increase as well,
Okay.
both boarding and alightings at the Crystal Lake Metro Station, which was a good sign.
I know the city is getting ready to do a sidewalk project on Virginia Road in collaboration with the county. Are they coordinating with PACE, or is somebody coordinating
They have
together?
connected.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Because I would hate for people to want to get to the bus stop on Virginia and then find out that there's sidewalks under construction and they can't safely do that, so.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I will say that, the south side of Virginia does have a sidewalk, not 100%, but for a short portion of it. So luckily, there is the left side of the street.
Yeah.
But our team is in communication, and our engineering team and our sign and shelter team are coordinating on that project to see.
I figured they would be, I just wanted to make sure. That's good. Cool.
I have a question regarding the fare structures. So the transfers are free now, right? Within like a
Yeah, if you're using the venture pass, it'll be a free transfer. Previously, there had been a fee for uses.
But what about for ADA paratransit riders if they're taking like multiple transfers to get somewhere like very far? Is that free too, or do they pay still $3?
That I don't know. I would think maybe if they're using a venture, but Gary?
If they're taking ADA paratransit, they just pay for the first leg, and then the other legs are covered. So on ADA paratransit though, so if you're starting out like in the city of Chicago and you ended up in McHenry, then you just pay your fare at the city of Chicago and you transfer twice to get up there.
And there wouldn't be a fee then.
Right, there wouldn't be a fee.
And transfers on the coordinated dial ride services like MC Ride doesn't
That's
really.
a little bit different.
That's
Yeah.
different, right? I want to make sure everybody understands. ADA Paratransit's different than MC Ride. Even though they look the same to the customer, they are different services, and we don't have a transfer policy for the MC Ride program, right? You have to pay the full fare. If you're going from MC Ride to the 550, you're going to have to pay full fare for both of those.
Right, or if you were going to like Rhine Lake County or something.
Correct.
Yeah. But if you were using fixed route services, so the 808 to the 550, you would have the free fare.
Okay.
Thank you. And Metro Rick.
Okay, thank you. I have a brief report. Metro ridership. Up until the end of April, we were pretty stalled out at about 44% of our pre-pandemic levels. And so what's changed in April was the Kennedy construction project has helped our ridership increase.
Mm-hmm.
Metro, in response to that, in anticipation of that, we added 12 trains to the Union Pacific Northwest line. Found out today that ridership on that particular line since April has increased by 30%, so that's helping us a lot. Our CEO reported at the April Metro Board meeting that there was 2 days in April that ridership on 7 of our 11 lines was up to 60% of pre-pandemic levels. He also reported that when you work downtown, you have to swipe in the buildings, and that's how they track how many people are coming downtown. And we're in contact with those businesses, and they expect that number's going to increase from 50% to 55% by June. We're also hearing that with the emergency orders being lifted by the governor and the president, that's going to have more companies calling people back to work, at least in a hybrid manner. So we're feeling pretty optimistic. And also this summer also comes a lot of activities and events downtown that always helps our weekend ridership. And our weekend ridership actually has been pretty good. It returned quicker than our weekday ridership as far as our those ridership levels. On another Metro note, Union Pacific, for those who don't know, the Union Pacific has been operating not just a freight service, but the commuter rail service in the Chicagoland area. A few years back, they said they wanted out of the commuter rail business, and since then, we've been locked in somewhat of a legal dispute with Union Pacific. I'm happy to report that we're finding some resolution to that. Union Pacific employees now are being transitioned over to be Metro employees. For those who don't know, even though For example, on the UP Northwest line, when you ride that train, you'll see they have Metro uniforms, Metro patches. Those are actually have been Union Pacific employees, but now they're going to become Metro employees. In the end, what's going to probably happen is the Union Pacific will still own the tracks, the right-of-way, and they still will dispatch the railroad. But then all the employees on that line will work for Metro. That's how a lot of our lines that we do not own operate. And so we are used to this configuration. And then what will be remaining is the real estate issues, such as the yard sites and stations, whether Metro is going to own those or lease those. Metro obviously would prefer to own them and not lease them, because obviously when we own them, we control the cost. When we lease them, we can't control the cost. So that's where kind of the debate is going on now. But the good news is things are starting to get resolved. And I think in the end, this is going to be a good situation for Metro commuters as a whole. So that concludes my report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I make a suggestion on the agenda? We don't have other agencies that might want to give an update on the agenda, but maybe we open it up if there are other agencies like Specialty Courts or Senior Care Volunteer Network. If they'd like to give updates, now might be a good time.
That's a great
If you're
idea.
acceptable to that suggestion.
I was just going to suggest that. Do we want to, and also Senior Care, anyone want to start with?
Sure. So my name, again, is Scott, and I joined Senior Care in December. Small operation, but it's completely driven by volunteers, which is possible through different funding and grants that we receive, so I'm sure you're familiar with us. We have had increases in rides pretty significantly for us. I would say probably about 20%. You know, we may average 650 rides every month to 90 volunteers that are actually listed as drivers. We're adding around 10 to 12 care receivers each month who are looking for different transportation options that are free transportation options. I would say since I've been in, you know, we've been able to increase our daily rides where we were capping at about 25 rides a day. We're probably averaging 35 to 40, sometimes even greater. So the volunteers have really responded to the need, but it seems like we're getting a lot of need. The care receivers that we have, we ask a 3-day lead time in order to get them a ride. We're trying to reduce that to 2 days. And except for critical care, cancer dialysis, we're limiting to 4 trips a week. We're trying to push that a little forward too. That's all based on what kind of response we get from our volunteer drivers. So it's been busy. There's small numbers by comparison, but we have some dynamics. Henry County, till I started this, I had no idea how big it is. It's out of control. And we get more and more care receivers who want to come in and enter our program in areas that are rural. I mean, you know, we talk about Richmond areas, we talk about Marengo, we talk about Harvard. When we go there to try and recruit volunteers, we end up getting more care receivers, which we will always take. So part of our challenge with coordinating their trips is that we're having volunteers having to drive distances to get to them, to bring them back. So we're really working on the volunteer aspect of it in these areas to try and bring them in. An example, one trip we just mentioned recently, Spring Grove up by Richmond, where we had to get her into Elgin for cancer treatment. And that's pretty tricky because you're talking about a 70-mile round trip or one-way trip for a volunteer that lives in Crystal Lake. But I was not able to, novice, but I wasn't really able to find other ride opportunities for her or other avenues that she could have made those appointments. So it felt like it was us or nothing. So for us, I would say, yes, we're increasing our rides. We're getting more and more care receivers or clients who are requesting to become a part of our organization, and we're working diligently for volunteers in these areas that are further away to help keep our mileage down for our volunteers. But I think it's been going pretty well. It's a very small drop in the bucket, I realize it. But when you're on the phone with these people and you're talking to them personally, you realize it does make an impact.
Scott, Sarah and I the other day, she had a great idea and she threw it my way just for my thoughts, and
Yes.
I think it has a lot of merit. But the example you gave from Spring Grove down to Elgin,
Yeah.
she said, well, what if, for instance, MC Ride could take the person from Spring Grove to your building in Crystal Lake? And get them at halfway maybe,
Yes.
and then since you have a lot of volunteers in the Crystal Lake area, they could then pick that person up. The person could wait in, inside, away from the elements, in a comfy chair,
Yeah.
while
We're
they're
very accommodating stuff at our
Exactly.
office.
So there might be some partnership opportunities between the Dial a Ride program and your service to make it so that the volunteer doesn't have to do that 70-mile round
And
trip.
that concept really came up based on this particular client. And it's very reasonable to say, is there a way? I know that sometimes some of the ride services that are out there, they can be exhausting time-wise, like, okay, well, I have to be here at this time, but the only way I can get the ride is if I'm there 2 hours early, things of that nature. But yes, the coordination of that, this ride has kind of brought that to the table. What can we do? But absolutely.
And if there are things that your agency, if you could wave your magic wand to get more volunteers,
Yes.
no matter how outlandish those ideas might be, you should bring those ideas to this group, whether it's more higher mileage reimbursement rates
Yes.
or whatever. I mean, we're open to having discussions on what we can do as a county, as a committee, to help you get more volunteers to help people.
Thank you.
We're already helping to fund reimbursement for those volunteers at the county.
Which is very important, especially in these kinds of drives. Some of our volunteers, they won't take reimbursements, which is wonderful. It's a true gift. But a lot of the times we're seeing they're taking round trips that might be a couple of hours of time, 8 or 10 miles, maybe 12. When we get into these bigger 40, 50 outreach, they're looking to get reimbursed, and without that, we wouldn't be able to accomplish it. But I will definitely, I'd like to come back at the next meeting as well, but I would like to put something together and say, okay, hey, how can we reach out to you on the volunteer basis? Because that's driven. We could do 60 rides a day versus 40 if we had a volunteer base, and we're going well with that. But if we had a volunteer base that could support that, there's no question that we have the clients and the need to operate it. And I'll just work 80 hours a week instead of 40.
Thank you. Specialty courts?
Yes, so our bus is up and running, which is very exciting. Slow start, but we are tweaking the routes to meet the needs of the clients. We just adjusted it, so we'll see if that increases. Plus the warmer weather, so it's easier to walk. So that might be affecting it also. Independence Health has been fantastic to work with, so we're super excited to see where this goes.
And I saw the schedule was enough. Is it open to other clients or how?
Right now, anybody can ride it. We didn't limit it to
okay.
see really what the need is.
Yeah.
But if it becomes so big that the specialty court people can't get on because it only holds 12 people,
Yeah.
then we may have to.
Okay. That's what I wanted to ask, because that's what when I saw the schedule, it didn't.
Yeah.
Didn't
So
say you
like,
can't.
I mean, really, the ending spot is the courthouse. So
Yeah.
unless you're going there, you don't really need it.
Right.
But it helps other probationers get to probation.
People want to get married.
Yeah. Why they would want to do that?
The limo doesn't work.
More information on that?
I can send you the flyer, or you can ask me.
Okay. And Scott, was there
It was just kind of an open invitation to whoever.
anyone else want to have a transportation stories or updates?
I have an update, but I don't know if it's committee time or not.
Sure.
So MCC got a grant, we're gonna put in 4 more electric vehicle charging stations, so then we'll have a total of 8. The main campus, they are still free and open to anyone who wants to use them. we discovered that the monthly cost of the software to charge people cost us more than the electricity, so didn't make any sense. So they're free, so that'll bring us to 8 at main campus, and those next 4 should be installed in the next month or so.
And are they, the usage on them, are they?
Constant.
So are people waiting, or is there a time limit, or?
It's kind of funny, they create their own little fiefdom, and they all communicate with each other, and we did have to put some signs up. Somebody called me the other day and said, "There's a white Tesla, it's been there for 6 hours." So, and I call campus safety, and they do their thing, and so, yeah, 4 hours is the limit, and they don't kid around. So after 4 hours and 1 minute, they're calling me.
And are these primarily students, or are they teachers,
It's
students?
really a combination of students and faculty and staff. There's a lot of community members that come on the weekends. Like I drive by a lot on the weekends, and there's cars parked there. I don't know what they're doing, they're just hanging out. But they're level 2 chargers, so it's not like they're getting charged in 15 minutes. So, but it's good. It's going well. So.
Okay. All right, I think we're ready for new business then. PACE driving innovation.
Yes.
Okay.
So again, Ed Gallagher, PACE Suburban Bus. Jasmine and Scott asked me to come give a small update on driving innovation. So driving innovation was PACE's strategic vision plan that was adopted in 2001 or 2021. So 2021. What year is it? So we set a large list of goals and initiatives that the agency wants to focus on. And I'm going to give a quick update on some of them. So next slide, please. First, an update on the purpose. So this information, I gave everyone a little blue handout that has this information, the driving innovation at the top. It has a statement. The purpose of the plan is to identify both near and long-term priorities for PACE Suburban Bus, guided by these goals, the organization and organized in a discrete planning initiatives in accordance with the overarching strategic vision, driving innovation. Builds off the succession of Vision 2020, which was the blueprint to the future, long before I joined the agency. So it is a living document. We are adapting as necessary to the, as an industry we're adapting, but also PACE is adapting to the needs of our region. We are looking at incorporating TNCs, transportation network companies, electrification, potentially even looking at other sources of energy when it comes to powering buses. We have set our service goals as well as our organizational goals for the plan: accessibility, equity, productivity, responsiveness, and safety. Glad to report PACE was just recognized for a safety award this year. So we are meeting some of these already. For organization, focusing on being adaptable, collaboration, diversity, environmental stewardship, fiscal solvency, and integrity. So these are the goals that the agency is focused on and keeping in mind as we're working to meeting these initiatives. Next slide. What I'm going to present is a progress report, kind of like a report card of sorts. So like we're a couple of years into the program. I'm going to give a quick update. The individual slides are going to be listed with implement now, implement later, and further investigate. That is what PACE through the plan identified during the initial planning process as to what priority each one of these initiatives was going to have. Then, you want to go to the next slide? So you'll get the implement now, the implement later, and further investigate. I'll be breaking it down based on the individual agency priorities, programs and policies, service infrastructure, and technology insights. So those are the 4 main buckets that the plan was kind of built around in a way to organize all the individual initiatives. Then as we move through, you'll see it'll update with an implement now, or if something is moved because everything is adaptable. Some of our initiatives may have been upgraded from an implement now or an implement later to an implement now and ahead of schedule. And then ones listed as further investigate are going to be denoted with no color on the report card. And then there's also a small scoring sheet. Don't worry, there's a key when we get to the slides. Exceeding expectations is going to be the green arrows, meeting expectations are the yellow arrows, not started yet is a no color arrow. And then the status of the projects. I have shared this with the county so they can share it as well as part of the minutes afterwards, but some of this information might be kind of small on the screen. Next for me. All right, so first, agency priorities and initiatives. As you can see, our key is on the right. So we've set electric bus fleet transition planning. Glad to report it was in implement now. We are ahead of schedule on moving on that process. Our zero emissions transit plan is active and continuing to be improved. We've purchased 20 Proterra buses, and they are set to be implemented at Waukegan within the next calendar year. Underneath that initiative, you can see there's other aspects looking at compressed natural gas transition, implementing battery electric technology, and investigating alternative fuels. We're not yet to the alternative fuels, but we are always looking. I was just listening to a podcast about hydrogen fuel. So the industry itself is continuing to study innovative technologies. Battery electric might not be the last. There could be hydrogen. We could have further progression. So we are continuing to monitor that. When it comes to capital investment, Rebuild Illinois Capital Program really helped us a lot, as well as the infrastructure funding that's flowing from the federal government. You can see there is a large list of capital development projects that are active right now within PACE. The ones that have finished were the Joliet Multimodal Center. We have the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, come for the signing, and then our ADA and Communications Technology transfer locations is being built right now. We've also got a lot of different garages and expansions active, as well as tri-state and tollway facilities that are in the process of moving forward. When it comes to rapid transit, we are very active on rapid transit in the Chicagoland area. Our Pulse Dempster is already up and running. Pulse Dempster is going to be up and running this year, and then the 95th Halstead and the others are still working their way through. Next one. All right, and then the system framework. So this is one where it's actually going to potentially play a role here in McHenry County. As the fourth and fifth agency priorities come with service standard framework and network revitalization. So PACE as an agency is, as you can see, we are at or meeting expectations on this implement now. This is going to be a program, next slide for me, where PACE is going to be initiating a complete undertaking to study our entire network. We're going to look at every single route, we're going to look at every single community, examining the market analysis, what has changed in the last 40 years. Is there new development? Are there new housing projects? Are there new changes to the individual layouts of our communities than when the original routes were created? We're also going to be coordinating that service with capital improvements. I mention that because battery electric technology right now works on smaller routes and in smaller areas. So we're keeping that in mind as we're looking to move forward. As battery electric technology and our capital improvements slowly increase and improve, there could be potentials as well for new and innovative services. The fourth stage of this process is a large, robust stakeholder outreach process. So in the next calendar year, we will be implementing an outreach process to collect information from our riding public, from our communities, from all of our community stakeholders on this process, on our service, as to help us build the network of the future. What do you want to see in a network of the future? And then we're also going to be working on regional service coordination to ensure that our services that we are implementing are also regionally significant and regionally connected to all the other services in the area. The activity on this one is we released the RFP this year. We've requested bids, and we are now currently reviewing those bids. So hopefully in the next month, 2 months, we'll have some information on that, and then we'll be actually kicking off that initiative. This initiative is something that PTEC can help play a role in. Once we have our contractor and once we have like our set kind of tiger team on this one, we'll get some updated information that'll come back and give another presentation on the program. And then moving on, programs, policies, and frameworks. We are meeting expectations and exceeding in a few others. So transit fare equity program is something, we've got the regional Connect Pass with Metra, and then we looked at reducing fares and transfer fees this year. So both of those are active. We're not yet engaged on transit supportive development, but I will say we do have a robust listing on our website and as part of this plan to present transit supportive guidelines to agencies and to municipalities. So those are still available, but we are still going to be working on that one. Administrative functions, we did implement the Priority Project Management Office, which created the slide for me, and has been really influential and a key activity, kind of that policy, that group has been really involved on every single one of our active projects. Funding guidelines, all still kind of ongoing. And then service infrastructure. So this is one where I'm also going to have some additional slides afterwards to kind of talk about our initiative and our pilot programs that we've kicked off this year. So as part of the Driving Innovation Plan, the goals were to look at innovative transportation network programs, look at on-demand services, look to conduct pilots and feasibility studies on innovative and outside of the bus programs for our local communities. So we have kicked off, we're working on network revitalization. That's one of the legs that could bring these types of services to the community. But we've also activated our Van Gogh program, our Mobility as a Service program pilot, Naperville Aurora On-Demand increase and launch, as well as the DuPage County TNC, which is DuPage County Uber program. So these innovative pilot programs are active right now. We are constantly monitoring and keeping an eye as to what are the good parts about the program, what are maybe some hiccups that we need to prepare for if we were to expand these programs. So each one of these individual pilots is being tested in different areas throughout the region to try to get more of an understanding as to what are the feasibilities of these long-term potentials for expanding into new areas. Yes.
Can I jump in? Is that okay, or should I wait till the end?
If you want to, is it about these ones?
It's about that one in particular, yes.
Go for it.
So, question on the pilots. So I really like that PACE is doing pilot programs and trying things out, seeing if they work. If they don't, scrap it and move something else. Is that often is implementing a pilot often brought up by the local government in that area, in this case DuPage County, or is that something that PACE goes to DuPage County and says, hey, we've got this idea, we want to try it here? Who's sort of in charge of?
I don't know for the DuPage Uber Access. I'm not sure on the creation of that one. That one predates my time with the agency, but I can speak to Van Gogh. With that specific pilot, we saw a reduction in commuters in an area, but we saw an increase in need when it comes to the employers in an area, and we were looking at reducing and removing routes. So we looked at the Van Gogh to help supplement the loss of a fixed route service, but still the need in the community for last mile service to and from employers. So that came through both the agency recognizing a need, but then also employers and community members in that area mentioning a need. So I would never say, don't tell us that you think there's a need and you want to be involved in this process, but I don't know exactly what started that.
Right, you get where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
Should the county be approaching PACE with some pilot ideas, or should we be waiting for Gary and yourself to come to us and say, hey, you guys would be a great fit for this type of pilot program? If it's the former, we will talk. If it's the latter, we would encourage you guys to think about how you can use McHenry County to try some ideas out that maybe aren't being done anywhere else in the region. We're open to that.
And we are still active, so this was one of the slides, dial-a-ride service consistency and centralized operating controls. So these are two because we've got the MC Ride service in this area and it's connected. We've got Ride in Kane and Ride in DuPage just to the south, as well as the centralized operation control. These are two that are still listed as further investigate to be determined at the moment, but at any time, any of these programs could be moved depending on agency priorities. So at the moment, they're still kind of on a hiatus and waiting, but it doesn't mean like next year they might not get moved up to implement further in the process. And then on to my next slide. And the fun stuff. So talking about the individual pilot program. So this is Van Gogh. I mentioned it at least once at a previous meeting like this. This is actually one that we're looking to McHenry and the Crystal Lake area for right now. It's a first to last mile commuter service, self-service vehicles. So we are placing vehicles at metro stations for individuals to pick up for their last mile commute, either off the metro train or if they can walk to the metro station to pick up the vehicle. We place vehicles with keypads on the dashboard, and you can punch it from outside. It unlocks the vehicle, you get in, the key's already there. You go through a process with PACE. We pay for a drug test and a physical, and then you go through a quick online driving training program, and you get approved for the vehicle, as long as everything comes back well on the other 2 tests. And once you're approved, you can schedule to use the vehicle the next day, or you can pre-schedule the use of the vehicle in the following week. There is no current restriction as to the number of days you could use it throughout the week. It is a $5 service, but it's kind of priced at a point where if you start to utilize it too much, you'll be overpaying versus some of our other van pool programs. So the use of this program is really starting to get active in the other areas where we have it, which is in Lake Cook, Lake Forest, and we just launched one in Palatine within the last month. So we've just got our third set of vehicles on the road. And we're actively looking, as I mentioned, for new locations for this one.
And maybe you already said it and I just didn't hear. It's first come, first serve, right? So
Yes.
if multiple people are registered for this, they get off the Metro train at the same time, it's whoever gets there first.
So you would book it in advance with us the night before. So
Got
because
it.
we can change the codes at a minute's notice. So like the code you use today is not going to be the code you use tomorrow, because we'll put it into a randomizer within the system
For
that we
security
have
purposes.
For security purposes. But with that idea in mind, we did just allow, in January of this year, we just expanded it to allow for riders. So if a driver goes through this process, gets certified, wants to allow, and maybe they have a coworker who's taking the same trade with them, the driver becomes free, they no longer pay a fee, and the rider is the one that pays the $5. And then if there's 2 riders, then they're both paying the $5. So that's a slight incentive to get people to be like, hey, you've got a coworker who also needs a ride, they can ride in the back as long as they go through the rider application.
And you said employer a lot, but I'm thinking MCC could be a client,
Yeah, we put the one in Palatine specifically to link up with one of the community colleges in that area, as well as some other nonprofits. So yes, there's opportunities.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. Is there an age? You have to be 25?
I believe it's 23. All of our van pool drivers are 23. That's the restriction. But
Well-
riders can be 18 and older.
I had a couple of ones that commuted to Chicago every day, so faculty.
Okay. We'll talk. Next slide for me. And then getting into our TNC pilots.
One more thing. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I keep cutting you off. The largest employer in the county is the county itself, right? We have a ton of people, over 1,000 employees come. A lot of them still work in Woodstock at this location. So I know you've talked about Crystal Lake getting a Van Gogh, but don't forget about Woodstock and the potential for a Woodstock bus or vehicle available for county employees primarily, but also Northwestern Medicine. They've got quite a few employees at their location too. It's just far enough where you can't really walk it from the Metro. It's bikeable, but if there was a vehicle like this, I'm guessing multiple county employees take Metro out here, or would consider doing so if there was something like this available.
Okay. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. For the other strategic pilots, we've got a TNC for its user. So Gary mentioned user. TNC company approved by the city of Chicago. Its service augments both ADA paratransit, dial-a-ride, and coordinated services. It's a rider choice. So just like a taxi access program or the opportunity to ride a taxi, U-Serve is also a rider choice. So when someone is registering right now in the current U-Serve area, they're given the opportunity to say, would you like to use U-Serve or a taxi instead of the regular fixed route bus? And we are expanding within the region. U-Serve has committed to getting ADA accessible vehicles in their fleet. I know they're still working on that at the moment for us, but that is the commitment, is to have ADA accessible minivans and others, so that it's also wheelchair accessible and individuals don't need to have the big bus. It's currently in a couple of the areas, and we're slowly expanding it out into the region. And as Gary mentioned, it's also driver shortage and driver need in that area. So if you know anybody who wants to drive, let Gary know. The second is a TNC pilot that I mentioned as something, again, along with the lines of PACE is currently trying out new services all over the region, and this is something we've never tried before. been talked about at one point, is what I was told. But a TNC last mile pilot in the evenings at some of our largest route areas when we do not have service on the road. So the first one is at the end of the 352 at our Harvey TC Center. So this route runs 24/7, but all the other connecting routes in that area do not. So individuals who work the third shift or something and are coming from Chicago to get home don't have a service to get to their house. If maybe they took the bus to the train or to the stop in the morning, they don't have a ride home. So this will be a TNC pilot where you can only get picked up either within the shaded community or at the TC, and all the services need to either begin or end at the TC. So also individuals who need to get to the transportation center to take the bus into Chicago or into the south of the suburbs can use it to get to that location. And it's in the evenings, early morning hours and late and nighttime hours. We've also are looking, it's actually not looking, we are implementing it around O'Hare. The O'Hare cargo employee areas to get individuals from who are working the third shift or late second shifts to get them back to the Blue Line to take the Blue Line home. This is also an area where we do have a fixed route, but it doesn't operate in the evenings when those third shifts would be getting out. So same processes. You can only take a ride from these locations to the Blue Line or from that Blue Line back out, and the same with the Harvey TC. Any questions on these? Next. And then lastly, technology and insight. So technology, as we move to embrace technology and find new ways to implement it across our services. We are actively working on transit signal prioritization. Glad to report we had a lot of congressional grant funding for TSP. So TSP would improve our buses on time percentage and help us avoid red lights by potentially letting a yellow stay open longer to help us get through. We're also working on upgrading the venture card system and procurement of new softwares, as well as mobility as a service, which is a new app. Customer focus, updating customer relation management service, which we just updated, so now we've got a better internal system for logging and keeping track of customer relations. Integrated transit platform and other multimodal trip planners we're still working on for the open source, and then looking also at autonomous buses. If Melinda Metzger, the CEO and executive director of PACE was here, she'd be mentioning how her idea is to get an autonomous bus, so then in the event of emergency, a bus would move itself out of a garage. Because electrical vehicles have a slight propensity for, if they catch fire, they do kind of go crazy. So we want to get as many buses away from one that might be on fire, or in the event of emergency, we need them out of a building because a building might have an emergency. An autonomous bus could do that overnights when no one's there. We press a button from home, and all of a sudden, each one of the buses, each in orderly fashion, gets themselves out of the facility. So that's just a cool idea. It's just an idea at the moment, but could be something in the future. And next, thank you. Mobility as a service. I know I mentioned it before. Transit Royal. So PACE has a transit app partnership. We've launched the trip planning app. It's in your hand. You can see all the fixed routes, put in the location you want to go. It gives you the ETA of when the bus is going to be there, how to walk, and where to go to meet the bus, as well as sometimes it even has the trackers on it. So you can see the bus moving its way down the street towards you. We are building this app. This year's goal is to get on-demand added to this app, so you can see the on-demand regions, press I want to ride on demand. You can order your ride from your phone, so then once you get off the PACE bus in that region, you can take the on-demand to where you need to go. Our on-demands also work close to metro stations, so individuals riding in for metro can pre-book an on-demand service.
And the on-demand are not the dial-a-ride services.
No.
They're different things.
They're different things. And I didn't think about that. I should have explained that a little bit. So on-demand is kind of like Uber for a bus in a small set geographic region. So we have identified certain regions that had transit density, might have a need for transit, but just didn't meet all of our requirements or the ability to get a fixed route in that area. So we have 2 in Lake County, I believe at least 2, maybe 3 in Kane County, and then we've got one now in Aurora and Naperville. We just expanded that one down there, southern DuPage County. And on-demand is one, too, that we're going to be continuing to study as a potential for other communities and other regions within the area. But that's just the progression of service is going to be added over time. Eventually, we'll be adding ADA, paratransit, and then I think long-term is to get dial-a-ride as well. But we need to move everything, in order. So, yeah, and that should be it. Any questions?
So Transit Royale is the name of the MAS?
Yeah, Transit, TRANSIT is just the name of the app, but then you'll automatically get upgraded to the Royal program. And we recommend making an account. You don't have to get access, but PACE pays for the upgrade for anyone to get the Royal.
So that's available to the public already?
Yeah, right now.
Come on, there's got to be more questions than that. There's a lot of information I just threw at us.
And I gave Jasmine the physical document for this presentation, and she can share it. And then I also gave everyone the in-depth listing of network revitalization. So it has all further details of what that process was pre-set out to be, so that you have that as well.
Your electric buses, you said you're launching them in Waukegan?
Yes. Yeah.
What's after that, next?
I believe River Division is second in line, so Elgin. So that could potentially lead to 550 being electric.
Okay.
But yeah, that would be, I believe, the next one in line.
Well, and the $1 million that we hope to get from Congressman Foster would help upgrade our McHenry garage, which our dial-a-ride service feeds out of. So
Yeah.
that could be in the future, assuming we get the $1 million.
Yeah, that could be sooner than Elgin, depending on when and if the federal budget kind of comes to fruition and they get some of those,
I'm just
grants.
asking because there's a lot of work being done on air quality in McHenry County. Obviously, I know you guys all know this already, but just wondering when McHenry County might be in line for electric buses.
We're glad to report that every single person on a bus reduces somebody in a car. So
This is true.
hopefully we can get more people, taking both our public transit options to reduce that. But in the meantime, we're really happy to have Congressman Foster's support for that to potentially have 2 electric buses in the community. So.
Two things that I signed up for my transit app a while ago, months ago, in fact, when you first presented this at PTAC.
Yeah.
And it says, oh no, never mind. I guess I did get granted Royal. It took me a little while.
Sometimes it can take 24 hours if you're a usual rider, they actually pick up when you're on the bus.
I see.
So
Okay.
if you have stepped foot on a bus or been near one, it might have automatically done it.
So it looks like
I
they
personally
did it.
had to request it, so I was one of the first signups on my team, and you had to email to request the upgrade.
That's,
but it was
I think,
free
what
and
I
it was
did.
really easy. They got it done in 10 minutes.
I'll push you on one item that you mentioned that you just kind of glossed over, but maybe with this thought, maybe there's more to it. You talked a little bit about your rapid transit program.
Yes.
And I know a lot of those lines are further in Cook County in higher density, locations. But in my mind, and I think the reason we proposed the extension of the 550 up to Crystal Lake back in 2015 was we saw the 550 as a Metra type service where it would be high frequency, maybe half-hour headways, where the stops would be true station locations, just like a metro station, right? The cities, Algonquin, Crystal Lake, Lake in the Hills, Elgin, could build up those bus stop locations with transit supportive density, knowing that they're going to have a very high level of service serving that location, getting north-south. And essentially, Randall Road will become another metro line. You think of it that way, metro with wheels, essentially, instead of rails. I would love to see that in PACE's long-term plans, upgrading the service level along the 550 to not only increase the frequency, but come to the counties, both Kane and McHenry, and ask for TSP along Randall Road. I mean, we control Randall Road. We can upgrade those intersections with transit signal priority if that was something that PACE saw as a priority. But I think we're going to need, it's relatively new to McHenry and Kane County to be talking about bus rapid transit. So I think we really need leadership on PACE's end to sort of get this on our radar a little bit. Because if there's one corridor where we could do something like this, it's Randall Road. 40,000 cars a day are using Randall. You're telling me we can't get half-hour bus headways? We should be able to do that on Randall. Right now we have 1 hour headways. Every hour there's a bus, but that's still not good enough for a lot of people to sort of plan their day around or to plan their commute around in a way.
Yeah.
So just food for thought. Maybe in the future we can talk about how we make that vision happen.
Thanks. Any other questions? if anything comes up, let me know. I'm always open to answering.
Thank you. And then now we have transit for teens. Is someone from the break, or is this Scott?
Well, no, so Jasmine, maybe you could talk a little bit about, we got an email from The Break, which, for those that don't know what The Break is, it's a center in Crystal Lake where teens can go to after school to sort of stay active and stay out of trouble. And, they have issues, though, because they're, often the kids can't drive, or there's maybe not enough cars in the house, even if they could drive, and so that they often get dropped off by their parents. And so it's a difficult situation because parents want to get their kids there, but they often they struggle doing that. And I think I know where The Break is located. It's along 14, right?
Right by Hobby Lobby.
Right by Hobby Lobby. So the new 550 alignment does go right by The Break now. It'll drop them off right at Techler, I think is the intersection, where you could get on and off there. It's an easy walk over to The Break. So that's one thing I think relatively new, the reroute that could help this center. And I think the individual that contacted Jasmine and I was looking for something more individualized, kind of similar to what we did with specialty courts, where we set aside some money independent of PACE, and we figured out some kind of transit solution to get people to and from The Break. And maybe that's just a county project we don't work with PACE on. And we invited him here. He couldn't make it today, but just something maybe we keep on the agenda for next month. If he can be here next month, he can give more of an update on where things are. And Kelly, speak up if I'm missing anything.
Is it starting from is it after school, or is there each individual house basically?
I think it's only open in the evenings, and I'm not sure about weekends.
Yeah.
Just to kind of support kids in the community.
I'm kind of wondering about, if it's like the route the specialty court has, where it goes to just certain locations, correct?
Right, like ideally if they had a bus that stopped at the high school.
Yeah, that's what at least the pickup, the afternoon, but at night, it's all going to homes, right?
Right. And this is just in Crystal Lake. I'm not sure how many kids from outside the Crystal Lake area are going here. Probably not many. And maybe McHenry has a similar center where teens get together after school, stay out of trouble. Do you know if there is something similar to this up in McHenry? There's nothing up there?
Is Woodstock the Warp? Do they do that, or?
I'm sorry, what?
The Warp Court, don't they have on the
I
square?
don't think that's for teens.
No.
I think that's more substance use focused.
So maybe it's a conversation we table for now until we get somebody from The Break that's willing to come and give us more information, but we'll keep it on the agenda going forward.
Well, I've been listening to a number of podcasts regarding the number of high school and grade school kids who are depressed, and it's grown so much, mostly from social media. They're home. We've had COVID where they were stuck at home to go to school. They didn't get to see people, and it's so important for young people to get out and go out, as opposed to have everything so structured that the only people that they say or that see are the same 10 kids who are in this soccer group and the soccer group that they're playing. And the mom and dad are taking them from one place to another place, and just to have a social outlet where they can meet. They don't have those what's the word I'm using, want to say? They haven't been exposed to enough of having to meet like this instead of meeting like this. So a place like The Break is going to be very important to them, and having transportation to that's going to be very important too. Big mental health issue.
Maybe there's a partnership with the school buses.
Yeah, potentially.
I think we tried that. It wasn't possible. I can't remember why. But we did ask. I don't think they have enough drivers. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, Kelly hooked.
Need school bus drivers for big need.
Oh yeah, they're shorter drivers just like Paces for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and Kelly was nice enough to hook this gentleman up with us and bring it to our attention, so that's why she knows more about this than most of us do.
Social skills, excuse me, that's the word. Should never have retired. Yes, I should. You're doing a wonderful job, better than I ever could on stuff like that.
Did you want to show our transit recommendations?
Yeah, this is the last new business. That's not on the agenda.
So new it's not.
Pausing.
Hot off the press.
And this is called?
Yeah, so this is on the county's 2050 long-range transportation plan. We just wanted to spend a couple of minutes discussing our transit recommendations draft. Over the past couple of weeks, we've held stakeholder workshops, and a couple of days ago, an open house. So the planning team at the DOT has been working on this draft with our consultant and wanted to bring forward to PTAC the recommendations that we have, which are in your packet and on the screen, but basically can be summarized into kind of 3 items. So the first one being focusing on maintaining affordability and exploring ways to reduce fare for low-income riders. The second, increasing our hours of operation. And the third, exploring ways to provide spontaneous trips within the county. So that could mean implementing TNCs like we've discussed in the past, or reducing the window of time reservations can be made. So right now, individuals with disabilities or seniors have up to 7 days, and the general public has 2 days in advance to make their reservation. I don't have a pointed question other than opening it up for discussion of what is PTAC's thoughts. I know the 3 of these kind of items we've discussed in different memos and in the different programs that we've brought up. So it kind of aligns with what we've talked about in the past year, and we've kind of condensed it into these 6 ideas, but we wanted to get a sense of what you all think we have before we finalize this. So we did decide to delay this recommendation, the transit recommendations, with our consultant so that we get the opportunity to talk to PTAC first and get your ideas or comments or concerns.
Yeah, we did run this by our transportation committee of the county board, and they wanted your input. I mean, this group is really the group that's supposed to be giving input on this type of stuff. So whether it's positive, negative, or we miss something, we want to hear from this group. These 6 recommendations are going to be the foundation that the transit chapter is based around. And we'd love to get specific. I know we're already an hour and 15 minutes into the meeting, but if you want to dive into any one of these and talk about how do we act, what does this actually mean? How do we put money behind this? Where do we start? We'd love to hear stuff like that at this point. And I know we're just springing this on you now, but all of this is also on our website, our 2050 website. You can check it out at your leisure. Are there any questions, I guess? Is there anything that doesn't make sense to you that I can, or Jasmine can give more input on?
I have a question for you. So how, like Ed just took us through kind of PACE's vision, how is this aligning with that?
I think it's close. I think it's a very closely aligning plan. Ed talked a lot about technology, and I think we're trying to get there with some of these recommendations. We talked about transit supportive land use and densities, and I think that's sort of what we're getting at with the construction of sidewalks. And I think there's a lot of overlap, but there's some things that maybe Ed didn't talk about that we're proposing here too. We talked a little. RTA talked about the income-based fare structure. We really think that this is a priority. That we want to dive into what does a truly equitable fare structure look like on our dial-a-ride system, or on our fixed route system. Right now, PACE charges a fare on fixed routes. Maybe the county subsidizes the entire fixed route fare. Maybe fixed routes should be free. What would that do to travel patterns? Would people choose to use fixed route instead of driving their car, or instead of using MC Ride? And for what is the fixed route fare now? $2.25.
$2.25 for cash or $2 with Metro.
That is a bargain. We could do that and not even blink an eye at the county. We could subsidize everyone's fixed route fare for the entire year with a drop in the bucket financially, compared to what we're paying for the MC Ride program. So, again, these are the things I'd love to get specific about. We've talked about subsidizing Metro fare. if there's people are going within McHenry County zones, right? Maybe, Rick, I know you have a 3-zone fare, right?
Yeah.
So what's the cost of that? $6, I think?
Yeah, I believe so.
So for $6, you can travel 3 zones on Metra. And so it so happens that McHenry County is 3 zones big. So yeah, if somebody purchases a 3-zone fare for $6, that could be paid for by the county. You have zero Metra fare. You get on, and you already on your Venture app have a free fare for Metra. What would that do in terms of incentivizing people to travel in different ways? And again, for $6, that's nothing. The county pays $20 for every MC Ride trip that we take. So to me, these are the outside the box ideas I want to really dive into. And just to be clear, nobody's doing this around the region. This would be new. We would be sort of treading new ground, and it's something I don't take lightly. I'd like to think we got support for something like this, but I need this committee to sort of buy into it, I think.
What about,
Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say extending outside the county.
In terms of like our MC Ride program, or?
Well, yeah, that, and, yeah, we talked about that a lot,
Mhm.
you know, in the lake and Kane.
Yeah. And we're having, just to be clear, we're having conversations with the other counties about how we can more closely work together to connect our services together. And I know it's a priority for PACE that they didn't really get into as much today, but how do we call it consolidation or call it coordination of the different services, the Ride Lake counties and the MC Rides? It shouldn't be hard for people to travel from Wakanda to McHenry. It should be very simple, it should be one seat. It should be a 1-seat trip, Gary, too. And I'm looking at you. Right now, it's a 2-seat trip. You transfer to a bus at the county line, and it's smooth, and PACE makes it as smooth as possible, but why should we require a transfer? There's got to be a solution where somebody could just get on a bus between McHenry and get off in Wakanda in Lake County. And it shouldn't cost 2 fares either. It should cost 1 fare, and it should be simple for people. And I'm not saying anything that I haven't already told Gary. And we know there's complexity. There's different funding sources that are used to fund these different programs, but that's why PACE and RTA, as the regional agency, needs to be stepping up and sort of, bringing everybody to the table together, getting this done.
So if I'm leaving two and a quarter in somebody's pocket so that we can offer free rides, how is the county going to absorb that? Or the first thing somebody's going to say is, where are those my tax dollars giving everybody a free ride? It's a question they're going to ask. But it's not one that I could answer immediately in my head, figuring out, you absorb it here, you take care of it, because it's not going to cost there. Some of us with our tiny brains don't think in those directions.
Yeah.
It's just a comment.
So the last I looked at it, this was pre-pandemic, we had about 30,000 rides on fixed route in McHenry County per year, 30,000. I think it was roughly that. So even if we paid 2 and a quarter times 30,000, you're not talking about a lot of money. We pay that in 1 month for MC Ride.
Okay.
So we're already paying this, is what I'm saying. Like, we're already funding transit to a huge level. $2 million this year is what's going from the county's pockets to subsidize MC Ride. So another $100,000, it's a rounding error for us, again. So again,
didn't the county transportation committee tank that idea?
They did, but I think they did, and I'm not oblivious to the fact that there will be some pushback to some of these recommendations.
But if it was, are you talking about it just for the fixed routes? And the argument is that the more we can draw off the dial-a-ride,
Yes.
the cheaper. So
Same thing with Metro, right?
Yeah.
If somebody, theoretically, if somebody's using MC Ride when they could use a fixed route or could use Metro, it makes financial sense for us to pay for their Metro ride or their fixed route ride instead. Because then you're incentivizing that switch to take place. We know there's not going to be, it's not like every free ride we give is going to be transitioning somebody from MC Ride to Metro or fixed route, but a certain percentage will make that decision to take this over that.
So it's like a line item. Peter and Paul.
And on top of that, everybody pays RTA sales tax, whether you're rich or poor, no matter where you live. Every time you buy a cup of coffee, everybody pays RTA sales tax. That's what we use to fund MC Ride. That's what we would use to subsidize fares. So it's not like property taxes are being used to fund this. It's not like only a certain subset of the population is funding this. Everybody would fund this. Sorry.
Who usually uses McRide? Like, is it more likely a disabled person that's calling for a ride, elderly, or why do they choose that?
I don't have the breakdown in front of me right now. I'm not sure, Jasmine, if you have that right now, but
it's a huge, a good percentage. I think over 40% of our rides claim to have a disability of some kind. And a large percentage, 20, 30%, are over the age of 60. So you're talking about people who have some limitation one way or the other.
So are they going to be able to get to the fixed route?
And that's where number one gets to that, right? Like building sidewalks. A lot of people don't take fixed route because they don't have a sidewalk to get to them.
I also think that the first mile, last mile, because if you could cut down the amount of distance that rides are going, and they were just limited to the ones in Crystal Lake at the train station, would get you from.
Well, and I think we would, if we looked at the TNC program, first mile, last mile using TNCs, we would focus on the metro stations. We would say like, as long as one of your pickup or drop off is at a metro station, you would be eligible for this TNC pilot. And what that would do for the city of McHenry, right? Getting people to downtown to the metro station in a convenient way, a low-cost way.
I think the incentivization is a real key that you pointed out. You use Metro on the fixed routes and how we can do that more. I mean,
it's just ideas at this point, but I think a lot of these ideas have merit, and but there needs to be a groundswell. Like if there's lukewarm reaction to this, then it's not going to go anywhere. And this committee would be the start of that groundswell if there was anything.
Scott, if I take off my pace hat for a second,
yeah.
Do you have sidewalk data on existing sidewalks?
We do. CMAP,
accessibility?
We do. CMAP did a really thorough analysis of all the sidewalk network in the entire region, including McHenry County. So we know exactly where there's missing sidewalk gaps. And we're trying on our system, the county system, to fill those in, but it takes help from their city partners to fill in their sections as well. And I know they are. It's just we need to go even faster to improve that. And we haven't even talked about land use yet. I mean, the cities also need to take a hint that like we need to increase density around transit stations. And it's one of those. It's a touchy topic, but transit's only successful if it has the density to support it. We don't control land use decisions near transit. The cities do. So there are things that are out of the county's control that would help.
Well, I do think the younger generation wants to be closer to transit, wants to be closer to restaurants and downtowns. So I do think the demand is there. I think we just need to provide the product and the service, and I think they will come. We see that closer into the city. McHenry County is still pretty rural, all things considered. But I do think, there's a lot of opportunity there, like Scott's alluding to, with transit-oriented development around our stations, and bringing good access with vans and buses and things like that. I think more so than in past generations.
And speaking of the younger generation, I think the app is huge. If you can get that,
yes,
you can do it on your phone. That'll be used.
Our committee really latched onto that discussion, and Ed was there. Our committee, more than anything, they wanted to see an app, right? They want to see some technology rolled out soon on the MC Ride program.
And by the way, I don't mean to digress, but Metro's doing that at our stations. We're going to have real-time information. We're putting installing the information at all our stations, where again, it's going to put people directly in contact with the transit agency and the trains that, the service itself, real-time information, because we know that's really what is going to be in demand out there.
I mean, I'm not on the committee, but I support the Metro. I don't know how feasible it is for the clientele getting rid of the McRide, but our clients could really benefit from discounted train passes. We've tried, it's hard to get a discount for anything on Metra, but if they could get, because a lot of our clients live in Harvard because it's cheaper to live there, but it's really hard for them to get anywhere in the county. So if they could jump on the train, that would be huge.
But it's like a piece of the puzzle though, right? I mean, like, you get on the train, you get to the other end, but if you're not quite at your destination, then the other piece of the puzzle comes in, the first last mile thing comes into play. So it feels like they all have to kind of happen. I think the first one about building sidewalks and making sure vehicles can accommodate bicycles and stuff is really, really important. I mean, like, only since I've been on this committee for a few years do I now know where the bus stops are. But before that, I don't think I could have told you where they were. You know, just that kind of advertising, and I know that's a constant struggle. It's just the education, you know, getting people to understand how easy and available it is. That, I think, should be really a big priority too.
I mean, I'll use an example. Woodstock is probably the furthest along in terms of building out its sidewalk network downtown, right? But even in Woodstock, there are sections of the city near the metro station that don't have any sidewalk, and that's an impediment. Whether it is, you know, for people that are in wheelchairs or even older and just have some mobility challenges, like that one missing sidewalk link for that one block is preventing them from using transit. And that's the reality. And it's a low cost thing. Again, transit's expensive, sidewalks are not.
Yeah.
Well, it's a visual thing, because like you're walking and you're like, wait, do I go here? Do I go there? Oh, the sidewalk will take me where I need to go, you know, and it's not necessarily older people, I mean, definitely, but I think generally people don't know where the bus station is, and then they see the sidewalk is going to take them right to it. It makes a big difference.
Okay, well, feel free to go on our plan website and give your honest opinion. If you don't want to give it here in public, that's fine. Give us your honest opinion virtually then, and we'd really appreciate that.
But if we went to the workshop, then
Yeah, you can always still go, and you can write as many times as you want on our website. Yeah.
And what is the timetable again on that? No,
So we took comments from everybody over the last month. We're going to consolidate all the comments we've received over the next month or two. We're going to revise the draft accordingly based on what we hear, and then we're going to roll out a final version sometime this late summer. And the idea being we'd have a plan adopted by the end of this year. That's my hope.
All right. We have nothing else. No more secret agenda.
Super secret.
Right. Well, thank you, and then have a good summer. See you the next meeting, August 3rd. And a motion to adjourn. You want to stay?
Everybody wants to stay.
I'll second. So, anyone really wants to stay? But, thank you.
3:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.